Oh no, it's the Yorkshire Bike Mechanic. Well, yeah, it is the Yorkshire Bike Mechanic, but I'm not working on bikes today because this is a brand new channel that I've set up all about cooking, because that's the thing I love to do outside of bikes. So when I first left school many years ago, I managed to grab my place in a catering college. And I had all intentions of being a chef or a cook at that particular time. Now, for whatever reason, it's a long time ago and it didn't work out. I think it was to do with money, because when I was 16, all I wanted to do was basically go out and earn money. And at that particular time, there wasn't a right lot of money in cooking. So, but I've carried on this passion of cooking for all these years, and I've cooked many things, and cooking is one of my favourite things to do. So what I'm going to do, basically, this new channel is going to cover off different things that I cook. I'll do a video on each particular thing to make, and hopefully it will inspire you to get on and do this yourself. Now, one of my favourite things to cook is chicken curry or curry. I love curry. It's one of my favourite things, amongst other things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off this channel with Chicken Balti. It's one of my favourite things, and honestly, once you've made this, if you follow my instructions, you will not go out and buy another Chicken Balti from a takeaway, I promise you. So, without further ado, let's crack on. Chicken Balti, Dave K style. Take a look at this. So as you can tell from my spice selection, this is just part of it, by the way. Let me show you what's in cupboard. There's tons and tons of different spices in my cupboard. I love cooking. Anyway, so these are the spices that you're going to need in a Chicken Balti. Now we're going to make this for one person, okay? Just to start off simple, this is a one-person curry. So we've got powdered coriander, we've got cumin, powdered cumin, we've got mild curry powder, we've got fenugreek leaves, we've got garam masala, we've got turmeric, and we've got kashmiri chilli powder. Now, kashmiri chilli powder is one of the best chilli powders to use in curries. It's full of flavour, it's beautiful, it's a beautiful taste, and it's not mad hot, but you can actually put a lot in and you can make it as hot as you want. So these are the spices that we're actually going to use for Chicken Balti. The other things that we're going to need are 230 grams of chicken breast, fresh chicken breast. We're going to have 2 small vine tomatoes, half an onion. I like to use a green pepper, but I can't find one today, so we're going to use red. You don't need all of this, but nevertheless, you definitely need to put a pepper in it. Ginger, cardamom pods, and whole cloves. Okay, you're going to need them as well. Not a lot, but you're going to need them. And also we're going to need, if you can see in the bottom of there, we need garlic. Now the quantities that we're going to put these into the curry, I'm not going to kind of tell you each quantity until it goes in the pan. And then I'll tell you, but I'll also put a list in the description as well, so you can then write it down or whatever you want to do. So I won't at this point go, you need to put this amount in, this amount in, this amount in. You'll see how much goes in to the pan at that time. So the first thing that we need to do, we always start with onion. The other thing that you're going to need is a decent pan. Now I use a Birmingham Balti pan, and I have loads of these. I love these bloody things. They're just the right size. They're great for making 1 or 2 curries, and you can get them really nice and hot. And so that's what I generally use. If you want to buy one, I'll put a link in the description. That's probably one of the best dishes that I use for making curry. It gets nice and hot and you can cook it fast, which is what you do with a Balti. You generally cook Baltis pretty quick. So let's start by chopping the onion. So the best way to cut an onion into small pieces is basically cut one side, put that to one side, and then cut it in half. We only need half of this onion for our curry because we're only making it for one. But this little end here that has all the roots on, we need to keep them on because it holds it all together. Just peel the skin off and then fold that back. That's it. Fold that back and then very, very finely slice, not all the way, just across there, all the way across, and doing it that way, you get a really, really fine cut of onions. Now, we don't need a lot of onions because there's only, like I say, there's only one of us, or we're only cooking for one. So that's the only onion, that's the amount of onion that we need for this particular curry. We can put them to one side. So the next thing that we need to do basically is get some oil in his pan. So I'm going to add 4 tablespoons of rapeseed oil in this pan. Now, you might think 4 is quite a lot. It isn't really. If you feel that it's too much towards the end, because we're going to try and get this to separate. Because we're going to get this to separate, and you'll be able to skim it off if you want. Now, the other thing that we need to add is 2 green cardamom pods and 2 whole cloves. They need to go in the pan. And we need to turn the gas on, medium heat, just till that oil gets warm and you can start to see those cardamom pods and those cloves just starting to sizzle. Now, what we're trying to do basically, we're trying to infuse the oil that's in that pan to actually pick up the flavours and the textures and the taste of the cardamom pods and the cloves as well. So we don't want them in too long. What we're going to do is just gently fry those until the flavours go into the oil. So we just basically stir them. We don't want to get them too hot because you don't want to burn them. If you start to burn spices, they tend to go bitter. So you have to be really, really careful. Just get them hot enough so you can just see to start to sizzle. And you can see those cardamom pods just starting to sizzle. And the flavours and the smell that you get from these. I wish you could smell these through camera. But the flavours and that you smell are amazing. Now, what you can actually do if you want to split these cardamom pods, you can do. Might get a little bit more flavour that way, but generally speaking, just for one curry, I generally just use 2 cardamoms and 2 cloves. If you want to put more in, you can do. But generally speaking, that's all you need. So we need to scoop those out. We don't need them in all that long. Scoop those out and put them to one side. We're not going to need them again, so they can actually be thrown away. So the oil is nice and hot. You can see the smoke coming off there. So the next thing that we need to do is get these onions in that pan. Nice and hot. Give them a really, really good stir. There you go, that's a better view. So we need to get this nice and hot. Keep stirring. And the idea is these onions need to go kind of a nice golden brown. So they're just starting to caramelise in that pan. Okay. And the other thing that we need to add at this point, just when they're starting to go translucent and brown, is we need to get this pepper in there. Okay, that's how much we're putting in. We're not putting a lot of pepper in. We don't need a lot, just throw them in. The smells are amazing. Okay, so we'll just let that go for a bit longer. So the next thing to go in is a little bit of tomato puree. Now it's round about a tablespoon is plenty, just under. And the main thing that we need to do with this is cook it out. We need to kind of get this tomato puree into the oil, kind of fried off, so you can't actually see it in clumps. It's all in like a tomato oil, if that makes sense. You can see what I'm doing. You can see the oil is actually changing colour into a tomato colour, which means that the tomato puree is cooking out into the oil. Again, if we don't do this, the tomato tends to be a little bit bitter. You can see that's going nicely now into oil, and I've turned the heat right down. Okay, right, and I can turn that off again now. The next thing that needs to go in is the garlic. Now I'm putting 4 cloves of garlic in. So there goes the garlic. There's 4 whole cloves of garlic there, in there. So that goes into the pan. There's no heat on at the moment, which is important. We don't want to burn that garlic. And then we need to add a little bit of ginger. Now the amount of ginger we add basically is round about 1/4 to 1/2 a tablespoon. You don't need much more. Don't forget it's only for one person. And now we put the heat on very, very low, and we just cook that garlic and the ginger into the oil. Just cook it there. We've only got really, really low flame, and we keep stirring. And the smell is just unbelievable. Okay, so that's all in there and cooking away nicely, as you can see. You can see all the tomato in the oil, the peppers, the garlic, the onions. And that garlic is just cooking really nicely now. Need to get that gas off completely. And keep stirring it. We don't want that garlic to burn. So what I'm going to do is, while the heat is off, I'm going to add some spices in via the tablespoon that you saw earlier on. Just give it a wipe. Now the quantities are actually put in the description, like I said before. First of all, I'm going to put the cumin in. Now this is 1 portion, don't forget. So we want round about 1/2 tablespoon of cumin. Round about 1/2 tablespoon of coriander. 1/4 tablespoon of turmeric. Now, depending on how hot you want it, would depend on how much you put in. If you don't like it too hot, then I'd generally just try 1/4 tablespoon of kashmiri chilli powder. 1/2 tablespoon of mild curry powder mixed, and 1/4 tablespoon of Garam Masala. So the quantities I'll put in the description. And then what we need to do is introduce the heat back into this to fry them, to fry them spices off and get all the flavours into the oil and get them all mixed up. So again, we don't want to go too high with the heat. We'll burn the spices if we do. So again, we'll get the heat on, get it really, really low. Get me spoon, and we'll just gently massage those spices into the mixture. Now, if you think that this particular paste is a little bit thick, and what you can do is add a little bit of water, and by a little bit, that's how much I'm talking about. Just basically to reduce the heat and reduce the chance of them spices burning. Especially if you've got quite a big flame on your stove. So they'll just really, really gently bubble. Now the other thing that we can add at this point is a little bit of salt. Now we can use salt to taste. Around about a little pinch just over. And keep stirring, otherwise you'll burn those spices. If you want to add more water, then add more water. Now you'll notice sometimes that I'm turning the gas off and on and off and on. That's because I like to kind of get the heat that I want to get in it. I don't want it too high. You can see that's just starting to cook out. You can see the oil starting to split from the spices and rising around the edge. We just want that to cook out for a bit. And then the next thing that we need to introduce is the tomato. And you can see the colour. You're starting to get that colour there. And it's bubbling around the edges. You can see the oil's lifting. Now we'll just turn it off again. And we'll just bob those tomato in there. We only need one tomato for this. Okay, that's all we need. There's one tomato, vine tomato, chopped into quarters. That needs to go in there. Okay. We'll get a little bit of moisture and juice out of those tomatoes, and that'll go into the paste. And then we need to get us chicken in there next. So we've got enough chicken here for one person. So we just generally, I like to chop into small pieces. Don't like pieces that are too big. Depends how you like it. If you want to put big pieces in there, you can put big pieces in there. Or you can use small. It's entirely up to you. But put all that in there with no heat. And then we're going to put the heat back on. Low for now. Just get that chicken in there. Get it mixed in. And what we want to do basically is at this point is cook that chicken in the paste that we've made. Now you might want to call this a masala paste or whatever you want to call it. This is specific for Balti, so if you want to call it a Balti paste, you call it a Balti paste. It's entirely up to you. You can see how that's starting to come together. Okay, we've got a little bit of heat coming back in there now. Okay, you can start to see that chicken cooking. Again, if we want to add a little bit of water, we'll add a little bit of water just to kind of make sure it doesn't burn. You can see that's coming together really, really nice now. You see? The smell is amazing. Now what I like to do at this particular point, I like to put a bit of fenugreek leaf in. Now fenugreek leaf you can buy in powder or you can buy it in leaf form, like a dried leaf form. You don't need a lot. Just crush it up in your fingers and let it drop in. That's looking mint. And them tomatoes and the chicken and all those flavours and spices are going to go into that chicken, and it's just going to be absolutely divine. Okay, now I've not got it on too high heat. I've got it on quite low, but it is quite a big ring and the steel is quite thin on the pan, so it's going to get hot, so just need to watch that. Depending on what pan you use, you can just use the amount of heat that's appropriate to the pan, if you know what I mean. Just put a little bit more water around edges just to stop burning. Just let that come back. Oh, I should have an apron on, but that's beautiful. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let that cook out for around about 10 minutes on reasonably low, and let that kind of start to infuse and let it to cook through, and you'll see all round edges you'll see that this oil is starting to lift from the mixture and come round the edge, which is what you're looking for, to get that separation of oil. We've got a bit of water in there, so it's not going to burn. We just need to keep an eye on it. But I'll leave it for 10 minutes and then I'll come back. So now you can see it's got to the point where it's really starting to reduce. You can see around the edge all the oil is starting to lift, and it's looking really, really nice. You can actually see that. So what we need to do now is, the idea is to reduce it, get rid of the water by cooking it and make it thicker to the consistency that you like. You can make it as thick as you like, but you don't want to burn it too much. You don't want the bottom of that pan to start to go burning. So what I tend to do at this point is add a little bit of water. Now you can see how much I'm adding in. I don't tend to put a lot in, and just lift that round and let that mix in, and that just basically waters it down a little bit more, so I can then start the process of reducing it again, if you like. It all adds to the flavour and the taste. And you can see that oil start to lift down that side. You can see that. Amazing. And at that point I'll just have a little bit of taste, just to see whether I need to add any salt. What I'd also do maybe at this point is add some fresh coriander and stir that in. I love coriander. Coriander's mint. It's really, really nice, this coriander. It's ace. You can see it's coming together really, really nice. Beautiful. So we'll let that run for a little bit longer. I'll just keep adding bits of water just to kind of top it up again and then reduce it again until I get to the consistency that I want. So you're starting to see those little volcano bubbles. Just see that the actual mixture is getting quite thick, and because the bubbles kind of change shape and become a little bit thicker. So now it's about time we have a taste. We need a little bit of a taste just to see if we need to add any more salt or anything like that. So we'll grab a spoon and we'll have a taste. I don't want to burn my lips. Burn my lips. Oh dear. Oh, that's amazing. Oh, that's so nice. Needs a little bit of salt. Oh dear. Oh, that's so nice. I wish I could swear. Oh. Right, let me put a little bit of salt in it. So I've just put a bit more salt in. Just gonna have another taste, see if I can find a nice bit of chicken. There we are. Bit of sauce on. Oh, Jesus. That is so nice. Now anybody that you know that have eaten one of my curries, they'll tell you how nice it is. So oh, that's so nice. If you make curry, if you make a chicken balti like that and just done it like how I've explained, there's no reason why it won't turn out exactly like it has. Now, if you want to put coriander on, then put as much as you want on. If you love it, then put it on and mix it in. You can put it on when it's on your plate before you eat it, or you can put a little bit in now. It's entirely up to you. That is the best thing ever. Honestly, if you like curry, the taste of that is just to die for, honestly. It's so nice. Oh, Jesus. Anyway, that's amazing. So there you go. The first video from the Yorkshire Bite Mechanic, turned into the Yorkshire Cooking Man. I hope you enjoyed that video. Please subscribe. This is my new channel. I'm still obviously going to do the bite mechanic stuff, but I just thought I'd add this in because it's one of my favourite things to do. I love cooking. But that's a good start. Chicken Balti for one. Enjoy.